we are going to move into the very rare tier of magic items. So, as if uncommon wasn't already rather hard to find. And remember, 5th edition is not built around magic items. If you have magic items in your 5th ed game, you're already ahead of the curve in a lot of ways. Name. Type. Description. Let's go to something good. Pardon. Here we go. We're talking about different whiskeys and such. We're going to hang out at the Crossroads. I mean, there could be even a Crossroads demon here. But let's hang out at the Crossroads for a little bit of ambiance. Now, we can look through the DMG at examples of very rare, in fact, because it gives you a lot of stats. If you want a compressed table of them, then if you go over to Xanathar's, they organize things. So here are rare minor items, very rare minor items. And there's also major items that have a lot more direct impact. You could get that jug enchanted to be an endless font. Whew. That'd cause some problems, I think. How rare would you classify an item that can cast Firebolt at the same time rate as someone with a cantrip? Is it requiring an action to cast? If it's requiring an action to cast, I don't know if it would be... It might be uncommon if it can cast a cantrip. So yeah, if it's still taking an action... I mean, you could look at a... There's something similar. Yeah. A circlet of blasting. While wearing this circlet, you can use an action to cast the Scorching Ray spell with it. When you make the spell's attacks, you do so with an attack bonus of +5. The circlet can't be used this way again until next dawn. So, I mean, here's a one-time use that's uncommon. If it was more common, or if you could use it more often, it might go to rare. Now, there's feats, and again, feats are optional in 5th edition. There's feats that will let you take extra cantrips. So, it would be interesting because a cantrip on an item, unless you rule otherwise, would be rather fixed, right? Because it's not based on the character's not casting it, the item is. And the item doesn't grow in level, and so the cantrip's damage is going to be fixed. And so, to that extent, you could even say, well, an uncommon might be the lowest tier damage for the cantrip. Rare would be on its next power-up, and a very rare on its next power-up. Alright, so let's take a look here. We have some very rare items. Ammunition +3. So, a +3 arrow. An arrow of slaying. A bag of devouring is already very rare. Horseshoes of a zephyr. Oil of sharpness. Potion of cloud giant strength. Potion of flying, invisibility, longevity. By the way, very rare items, if I recall correctly, are somewhere between 5,000 to 10,000 gold pieces to acquire. And also, very rare tier, we're talking 6th, 7th, and 8th level spells. And by the way, this is a good guide if you're creating magic items, right? Rare, 4th and 5th level. Very rare, 6, 7, 8. Legendary, 9th level. In some form or fashion. Then we look at our major items that are very rare. And by the way, you can see there's a lot of rare items because this is... While the items are rare, there's so much you can do because rare expands your possibilities greatly. So we come down here. Amulet of the Plains, an animated shield, which not only provides you AC, but it frees up your hand. So you could possibly two-hand and have a shield. Carpet of Flying, Afridi Bottle, Frostbrand. Ion Stones. By the way, armor +2 is very rare. Remember that. Manuals that can increase your stats. Ring of Telekinesis. Rod of the Pact Keeper. Scimitar of Speed. And we can refer to these because these are in the DMG. So we can go back and say, I don't know, let's say that we end up rolling that we make a rod. Let's see what the Rod of Alertness does and head back to it. So with that, let's go up and start coming up with some random prompts for a very rare item. Okay, we're going to roll a d10 and find out which kind of item we're going to have. Oh, where did my little roller go? Not there. Not. Yep, here we are. Whoop. Let's roll a d10. We rolled a 10. It's going to be a wondrous item. The intended use of this item on a d20, number 13, elemental water. Boy, all we are missing is elemental fire, and we have a set of items. Elemental water. Lustrous fish scales replace leather or cloth on this item, and metal portions are instead crafted from seashells and worked coral, as hard as any metal. Yes, because I was thinking about giving guards a gun-like magic item as their weapon of choice for the guards, or at least some guards. My GM handed our a cache. Oh, so like us a cache or a cache, depending on how people pronounce it, of magic items a while ago. We got iron stones, and I got a holy symbol that makes me immune to poison damage, but not always immune to its effects. He judges that conditionally. Ah. Okay, yeah, so it doesn't hurt your body, but you may still feel some effects of it. That's interesting. I like that. I like that take. Yeah, and offering a gun. Well, I mean, there are firearms in the DMG, but if you want it to be, if you want it to be an almost unlimited number, or if you want it to be limited by, if you do put a limitation, like this item can only be used arbitrary number of times, 6, 10, 12, 20, 100. That's up to you. But if you look in the DMG, there's even laser rifles and antimatter beams. And if you want to equip your guards with a magical equivalent of a laser rifle, do it. Alright, so we have a watery intention. A detail from its history is going to be rolled on a d8. 3. Heroic. A great hero once wielded this item. Anyone who's familiar with the item's history expects great deeds from the new owner. A minor property of this item is going to be a d20. A 20. Roll twice, re-rolling any additional d20s. All right, let's roll it twice. 2 and 4. This is a more advanced item, isn't it? Funny how the RNG works. Compass and Delver. The wielder can use an action to learn which way is north. And Delver, while underground, the bearer of this item always knows the item's depth below the surface and the direction to the nearest staircase, ramp, or other path leading upward. And a quirk about this item is on a d12. We rolled an 8. Muttering. The item grumbles and mutters. A creature who listens carefully to the item might learn something useful. I'm guessing those laser rifles and beam weapons come from the mind flares and such, as they are from the future and caught in a time loop. That is individual. As far as I know, that's a homebrew take. It's an interesting one. There have been some mods that modules that have implied that mind flayers are aliens. Like alien visitors, or just in common Underdark lore, they're just denizens that live down there. But hey, that's the beauty of this game. They can be whatever you'd like. All right, so this has to deal with water. It is a heroic, wondrous item. Wondrous items can be belts, boots, hats, just a random bauble of some kind. So let's put our brains together. Speaking of Illithids, and what would we want to do for a very rare wondrous item? Again, let's reference a couple of the things that are in this tier. Iron stones are similar. A manual of golems. Oh, rings. Various rings. Regeneration, shooting stars. Oh, no, I'm sorry. A ring is a ring. A robe of scintillating colors. A robe of stars. A tome of leadership and influence. A bag of devouring horseshoes of a zephyr. Nolzur's marvelous pigments. Let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at Nolzur's. You're like, well, why is paint a very rare item? Typically found in 1d4 pots inside a fine wooden box with a brush, weighing 1 pound in total. These pigments allow you to create 3-dimensional objects by painting them in 2 dimensions. The paint flows from the brush to the form of the desired object as you concentrate on its image. Each pot of paint is sufficient to cover 1,000 square feet of surface. When you complete the painting, the object or terrain feature depicted becomes real, a real non-magical object. Thus, painting a door on a wall creates an actual door that can be opened to whatever is beyond. Painting a pit on the floor creates a real pit, and its depth counts against the total area of objects you create. Nothing created by pigments can have a value greater than 25 gold pieces. If you paint an object of greater value, such as a diamond or pile of gold, the object looks authentic, but close inspection reveals it was made from paste, bone, or some other worthless material. If you paint a form of energy, such as fire or lightning, the energy appears but dissipates as soon as you complete the painting, doing no harm to anything. Pneumonica says, I think the official take on them is that they're from ex nihilo of some kind, usually described as the Outer Dark. XCat says, my understanding from deep lore videos on the D&D books themselves point out they're from the future and such, worth looking into. Tying into the Gith Yankee and so on, but I might be wrong. No, I mean, they've been featured in a lot of different ways. Lore is lore. You can use your own, you could use someone else's. It's up to you. I've primarily played in homebrew worlds, so I don't have a lot of official lore when it comes to aspects of monsters like that, XCat. I'm sorry, I don't really have particular commentary without researching it myself. Roger Twy, a figurine of fish. XCat says, my friend has an item in his campaign we don't get to use much that's called a cloak of holding. It can hold a set amount of things, but instead of a bag, it's a cloak you wear. Yeah, like cartoon physics brushes. Yeah, right, like Wile E. Coyote paints a tunnel on the side of a rock, and a tunnel is made, at least for the Roadrunner. I mean, the deep lore of D&D changes over time, so pick an era. Hey, what Pneumonica brings up a point too. So Roger Twy is recommending some sort of like a figurine of a fish. We could do something along those lines. Something heroic. It can act as a compass. Does it have to be north? Not necessarily. But it's a theme. And also Delver, a way to go up. But if we're talking elemental water, maybe instead of caves, because, I mean, up is up in water, right? Maybe it's a way to navigate better. Yeah, no, I understand, XCat, and I appreciate the heads up on the lore, because I'm not really aware of stuff like that, right? See if I can fix this camera. That might be a little better. And it mutters. So maybe some kind of it could be a figurine of a fish. It could be some kind of like a diving helmet even. If you want to drop the name, I'll take a look into it, XCat. I'd appreciate that. I actually have. It's not a full diving helmet, but I have a representation of the old like the old-fashioned deep diving helmets. I think I even have one out in the other room where I had this Jack Daniels jug. In fact, we could even... Ooh, how about this? So, there used to be something... Well, I guess they still could exist in concept. But it was called a diving bell. And it was a big bell that you just would put underwater. People would sit in it. And it has a pocket of air to breathe for a while. And then you could just dive out from under the bell, do your work, and come back, breathe, and keep going back and forth. But, we can call it like a diving bell or a... diving helmet or something along those lines. Type wondrous item, very rare. Probably does require attunement. Description. Thank you, XCat. I very much appreciate that. When worn, this helmet produces an unlimited supply of breathable air. So it can be worn above ground, too. You know, so if you are in a circumstance where, I don't know, a poison fog cloud is descending on you, you might be able to do that. This helmet produces an unlimited supply of breathable air. The glass visor offers the wearer, I guess, or like the attuned wearer, information on its depth and direction it is facing. When viewing aquatic life through the visor, the wearer can ask the helmet for information on what is seen. Through the hiss of constant air and or bubbles that emanate from it, the helmet can reply. The helmet confers the effect of the freedom of movement spell on the attuned wearer. Which, oh, does freedom of movement give a swim speed as part of it? For the duration, the target's movement is unaffected by difficult terrain, and spells other than magical effects can either reduce its speed or cause it to be paralyzed. The target can also spend 5 feet of movement to automatically escape non-magical restraints. Finally, being underwater imposes no penalties on the target's movement or attacks. The helmet confers the effect of the freedom of movement spell on the attuned wearer. I don't know, something like... Well, if it lasts an hour... 3 times a day. I mean, so you can still swim and act normally, but if you want freedom of movement, it can give that to you. Hopefully very big, otherwise it's a bit of a suffocation hazard. Yeah, the diving bells were really big. I sent the link to Darkwolf to post. It's worth sharing. Delcorn says about an article from 1935 talking about a 17-year-old kid who turned a glass cookie jar into a diving bell. Hey, okay. Oh, yeah, and so that's where that came from. Any interest in taking the heartbeat sensor from Alien into a D&D magic item? Yes, so that would be like a life sense. Something like that. Although from Alien, it wasn't so much a heartbeat. It sounded like one, but it was actually measuring movement. It was like a movement detector. When underwater, the user may have the trail of bubbles remain in place from the helmet for up to 8 hours. So you can leave yourself a trail of aquatic breadcrumbs. So you can follow your line of bubbles back to where you came from if you think you're getting lost. The helmet also offers dark vision to a range of 60 feet. Freedom of movement's a 4th level spell, but you can cast it up to 3 times a day while wearing it. Let's see. I'm still getting a rare vibe from this level. It's very utilitarian. You could wear it in battle. It's going to give you dark vision. I think it needs one more oomph to make it very rare. I think the normal guards might have the common one. Uncommon would be for high ranking, while royal guards would have the rare. What could put this concept right, like what? Maybe off of the heroic. But we have almost everything. We haven't really incorporated the heroic, and I think the heroic portion of this item can really push it from a useful rare item into very rare status. Oh, something else that we can put in. And maybe this is our push into it. How deep can a human dive? About 130 feet. Man sets new world record for deepest scuba dive after plunging more than 1,000 feet. Scuba organizations say recreational divers should go about 130, but one Egyptian diver recently ventured a bit deeper, going more than 1,000 feet below the ocean surface and setting a world record in the process. The need to do decompression stops increases with depth. A diver at 6 meters, or about 20 feet, may be able to dive for many hours without needing to do a decompression stop. At depths greater than 40 meters, or 130 feet, a diver may have only a few minutes at the deepest part of the dive before decompression stops are needed. So, we want survivability, I think, in here, too. And this could play into the heroic aspect of this. Heroism of some kind. We just have a prompt mnemonica. We have some type of bird of prey in our area. I haven't got the best look at it, but I think it might be a hawk. I just heard it calling. Oh. Well, chipmunks or even stray cats or kittens, beware. Unrestricted, even at very rare, I don't think very rare would have an unrestricted depth. But I think that we can have something like you may also dive to a depth of, so if a person can normally go, I don't know, 120 is a commonly found. We can just... It's kind of arbitrary, right? But we can say 300 feet. Or 500 feet. Perhaps it will provide temporary hit points at a rate of 1 per minute up to a given limit, but the temporary hit points only accumulate for a full minute spent entirely immersed in water. Thus the person can bravely charge into the deep as they're protected from its harms. I like the concept. I think the accounting wouldn't fit with the spirit of 5e, though. Or would it? I don't know. Would that simulate something else? It might. Stream of consciousness thinking as I'm processing all these options. Again, I think that's making it kind of complicated, XCat. And you have freedom of movement built into it for 3 times a day, which in effect can act as ways to overcome impediments. No, I understand, Pneumonica, and I'm having a first thought. What I want us to think like this, right? What's coming to mind? XCat has ideas. You have ideas. I'm not trying to poo-poo on any of those because heck, on your end of the camera, you might be saying, Matt, this is a dumb item. I don't play water campaigns. I don't play diving campaigns or sailing. We're wasting our time making a wondrous item that has to deal with something that hardly any campaigns ever get into. I understand that. It can allow you to turn into water. Oh, I see. The heroic ability lets you turn into sentient water. So something like that is capable for some druids that can turn into water elementals. I wouldn't put it past, but the concept of the helmet is apparently to allow non-watery humanoids to be able to enter the water, not necessarily become water themselves. If we want to scrap what we have and go off of that basis, we can do that as well. Because that would be a powerful ability. To be able to turn yourself into a water elemental. I mean, druids can do it twice a day. To even be able to do it once a day. For a number of hours, for a fixed number of hours. That in itself would almost be a very rare item. And you know what? It's simple and it's elegant. As a part of having all of these qualifications. So that's not necessarily a bad idea, XCat. And I think that, you would have something about that. Perhaps it gives a legendary save once per day, but only while immersed in water. So how about this, Pneumonica? A use of the spell may instead be replaced by receiving advantage on a save of your choice. While underwater. I think this is now very rare. Lots of common support stuff. I mean, you might look a little silly walking around with this big diving helmet on your noggin, but it has a lot of like just inadvertent uses, and when you need it, the very rare kicks in with the ability to use freedom of movement or use a use of freedom of movement to receive advantage on a saving throw of your choice while underwater. Doing one-shots when we're missing too many people in a group, continue the story by making quick build characters, and then with a one-shot would affect something in the world. Either a historical event or something happening far... Hey, that's a great idea, XCat. Yes, XCat. Because the helmet itself produces an unlimited supply of breathable air. So yeah, you could wear that in a poisonous environment. I mean, we could restrict it to water, or we could have it be on all the time. Or because the helmet will hiss, you're not stealthy, right? So you may be wearing this helmet to avoid poison or water, but it's still emanating noise because the excess air is leaking out of the helmet, and so that could be a trade-off. There we go. Giving disadvantage on stealth checks while in use. I think disadvantage works. Actually, in this case, instead of dark vision, the helmet also emits bright light to a range of 60 feet and dim light another 60 feet beyond. That rely on, or I guess instead of stealth checks, giving advantage on perception checks to detect you that rely on sound while in use. So instead of dark vision, let's just make it cast out a beam of light. That way you can even see in color. Does the helmet also make you want to protect children and grow a drill arm? Probably not. We got to draw the line somewhere, XCat. But yeah, I mean, you could call it... You can call it that. We'll just call it the Big Daddy. Something like that. The Big Diver. All right. So that was random, very, very rare item number 1. Let's go through the exercise again and produce one more, and then maybe we can take a look at XCat. You loaded some item ideas, and there's some others. Cake Boss that have put in there. I don't think Cake Boss is here, so XCat, we can take a look at some of your stuff here. Above and below human spectrum vision would still have colors. We humans don't have names for shades of invisible whatever, says Irony Golem. Hi, Irony. Viking says, call it Big Berge after Victor Berge, the most well-known helmet diver in history. Or because we're talking about a heroic item, Victor is the name, but a victor as in someone who accomplished. We can call it something like Victor's helm or helmet is kind of bland. Victor's vision. How about that? Victor's vision. The Berge of Discovery. Hey, Ren. Bird feathers have ultraviolet colors that in their eyes are wondrous colors. To my eyes, it's a glossy purple. Calling it the Victory Bell. So it's a giant plant that people can go inside of. Hey, Derek, what have you missed? We've been making some very interesting magic items, Ren. And in fact, you just came in. We're going to make our second random, very rare magic item. We're putting our noggins together and coming up with some cool stuff. Oh, snap, Ren! Did that happen on stream? Or, like in the middle of one of your streams? You know, was she like, hey, by the way... And everyone clapped? Saw one camera video where like plant seeds have UV color, and to their eyes they're glowing stars on the ground for us, needle in the haystack. He can see seed like magic vision. That is very interesting, Irony. And I'll tell you, there's a particular project I'm working on that actually takes ultraviolet light into consideration in D&D. So when I finally do get around to releasing it, I hope you're going to enjoy it. We got sushi and she popped the question. She's a private gal when it comes to that kind of thing. I understand. You had good sushi and good intention. And even better results. That is awesome, dude. So congrats on that. Okay, here we go. Let's roll a d10 and find out what we're rolling. An 8. We have another wondrous item. It was intended to be used by... I mean, if we get a 12, this will complete our elemental cycle. 9. A dwarf. Item is durable and has dwarven runes worked into its design. It might be associated with a clan that would like to see it return to their ancestral halls. Its history. We're going to roll a d8. 4. Ornament. The item was created to honor a special occasion. Inset, gemstones, gold or platinum inlays, and gold or silver filigree adorn its surface. A minor property of it is 16. War Leader. The bearer can use an action to cause his or her voice to carry clearly for up to 300 feet until the end of the bearer's next turn. And a quirk of the item is 11. Ooh, it's repulsive. The bearer feels a sense of distaste when in contact with the item and continues to sense discomfort while bearing it. Here's our prompts, everyone. We have a wondrous item which can be boots, capes, crowns, all sorts of things. Pigments, right? As long as it's not like weapon, armor, staff, scroll or rod or whatever. It's kind of a catch-all. It could be a figurine of some kind. What can we invent that meets these properties? So it's intended to be used by the dwarves. Now, whether or not it is, look, you find magic items all the time, but this was supposed to be given to dwarves as an ornament of some kind, a very fine ornament. The war leader property makes it so that at least voice, but we can always maybe, it's very rare, we can have some flexibility, maybe even emotion expands out, or we can make the effect go out further because it's very rare, so more than just 300 feet. But there's this war leader property. However, the quirk to this is that it is a repulsive item. What could that mean? Now, keep in mind, we're not making a cursed item yet, but you can make a magic item that fulfills something that might seem negative. In fact, a common magic item that came out in the Eberron Unearthed Arcana, which should be here. Look at this Band of Loyalty. This is not a cursed item. It's a common ring. It requires attunement. If you are reduced to 0 hit points while wearing this ring, you instantly die. These rings are favored by spies who can't afford to fall into enemy hands. Boom. This is a magic item that's not cursed. It works as intended. So we can, let's work along with that idea where the repulsion isn't a curse, but it's a part of the item for some reason. Making someone uncomfortable could help keep them focused, maybe? I don't know. Let me go over to chat. I'm being chatty myself. I just imagine an item that lets you teleport, but when you use it, it makes the nearest person teleport to a random location. I did not make it up, but there was a sword with a coin slot in it. You had to pay the Ferengi magic sword to use its powers. I like the Ferengi as an adjective there. XCat says, what about boots that lets you control the direction is down for you? So you can walk on any walls? Well, so there's already just boots of spider climb that do that, XCat. A battle horn adorned with runes and gold inlay. It can be heard by any party member up to X amount of distance, but whenever it's used, the wielder feels animosity towards the closest member. Yeah, Darkwolf says you could trip up the stairs. XCat says stairs are just walking along and you trip them and make them fall over. How rude, Darkwolf. Roger Twice says Dwarven Medal of Valor, traditionally made from a troll fingernail. Maybe the fingernail keeps growing and so you actually have to keep it trimmed. So it's a little repulsive in that sense. It's a mark of honor, and it constantly reminds you of your battle because you have to keep you have to keep trimming this this troll fingernail that grows as a reminder of the person that you fought against. That could be interesting. But if gravity is that direction, you can be made to fall off the wall. So I suppose there is a spell of anti-gravity. Hey, TJ, welcome. We have our thinking caps on. Control water, control weather. Alright, so it's not called control gravity. What is it called? Reverse gravity, that's what it's called. The spell reverses gravity, and this is a 7th level transmutation. That could fall within very rare. The spell reverses gravity in a 50-foot radius, 100-foot high cylinder centered on a point within range. All creatures and objects that aren't somehow anchored to the ground in the area fall upward and reach the top of the area when you cast this spell. A creature can make a dexterity saving throw to grab onto a fixed object it can reach, thus avoiding the fall. If some solid object, such as a ceiling, is encountered in this fall, falling objects and creatures strike it just as they would during a normal fall downward. If an object or creature reaches the top of the area without striking anything, it remains there, oscillating slightly for the duration. At the end of the duration, which is concentration up to a minute, affected objects and creatures fall back down. Irony, I see a new class of items that are just advantage, disadvantage. This item negates heavy armor, steel disadvantage, or grants advantage when tightrope walking or long distance running. Oh, stealth. Well, just negating that wouldn't make it very rare, I think. It might make it rare. It might make it rare. We could have a play on words. If we're discussing gravity and something is repulsive, it is repulsing. We might be able to build in maybe some kind of a bonus action levitate. But after you cast it, because of the disorientation of lifting up so high, maybe to avoid something, or as a reaction, it can make you feel a little woozy. And so, therefore, it is repulsive in that sense. And as a war leader, you might want to rise up anyway. Napoleon said, cheaper paying soldiers in ribbons than in silver. I want to pay the players the joy of magic items, just not have them unbalance my combats. Good advice, Irony. She's hiding because she's building herself up to me throwing this. You want this? Go get it. Nope, TJ, we're just going off of the prompts here. So we're throwing out ideas. Maybe it can control gravity in some way. Has this war leader property that it can project a voice. It was made for use by dwarves, ornamentation. In fact, I can almost see this as maybe being able to cast. Maybe it can cast enlarge, reduce. Maybe just the enlarge portion. Can cast enlarge, reduce, levitation, even as a reaction for penalty. Amplify voice. Just had a thought, maybe it's a shield that can behave like Tensor's floating disc. Like a floating platform. There is already a floating shield, if I recall correctly, TJ. Players are different. Hard to know what matters. Something like a stick that transforms into any walking stick you can desire. They love it. It does not actually do anything. You can please a lot of loot desire with harmless. Yep. Don't underestimate common and uncommon magic items. You don't always have to race for the top of getting, you know, a super keen sword or, you know, shiny armor or something along those lines. What if the boot allows you to super kick something? Yeah, there is an animated shield. So, well, instead of boots, what about this? What if it's a cape? A very brightly colored cape, so it catches people's attention. It's ornamented, so it sparkles because it has gold and gems on it. And the cape can let you cast enlarge or reduce, and it can provide a levitation effect. So you have almost like a Magneto-looking effect, right? Wouldn't that be cool for a war leader meant for dwarves? I mean, we could say boots, but remember, we're talking about ornamentation. I mean, you can have ornamental boots, but are they really going to be seen or enjoyed as much? A beard ring that automatically applies oil to the wearer's beard, leaving it lustrous and supple, but it smells like rotten eggs. No one knows the leader's plight, but they all admire his beard from afar. Viking. I'm a Dapper Dan man myself. But something like a beard ring or a brooch that Otto talked about, or again, a magnificent cape. Capes and cloaks are wondrous items as well. Turns it into a firework. Maybe something kind of like that. Like, it's a very ornamental cape. Looks really cool. It could even billow itself. Right? You see how, like, on the mantle here, there could be all sorts of gems and such? Capes and cloaks is Darkwolf's aesthetic. So she is a cloak and dagger type of girl. And masks. Cantrip from Thaumaturgy, Fluttering Cloak, Presence over Power. Presence of Power. Okay, thank you, TJ. I'll open it in a little bit here, but I can't open it up at the current moment. Auto uses a reaction if you fail a saving throw, giving you a chance to reroll a failed save by growing smaller. That could be interesting as well. And then it might have some sort of a disadvantage afterwards, kind of like what you would feel after haste. When the spell ends, the target can't move or take actions until after its next turn as a wave of lethargy sweeps over it. Something like that could work. Indoors looking ultra heroic. People notice there's no breeze for your cloak to the He-Man flutter in. Okay, so this is going to be a... I don't know, like for a sample name... just a sample placeholder, like a Dwarven Warlord's cape. Hey, DTG, welcome. It's good to see you. We're making some magic items out of random prompts from the DMG. Type. Cape. Very rare. Requires attunement. This cloak could grant fly, but you have to stay within X feet of the ground. Maybe not fly, but I think levitation could work very well. The cloak has 3 charges. Let's see. Enlarge, reduce. Is 2nd level, so that's probably a 1 charge. Levitation is also 2nd level. The Amplify Voice is free, it just takes an action. Until end of next turn. Free. Flutters on command. One charge. Reactive property. I guess we'll call it for right now. Now, levitate is concentration. So I guess the concentration would be up to the cape wearer. And enlarge, reduce, I think is the same, isn't it? It is concentration up to a minute. Oh, we should probably also put free as a reaction. Featherfall. What if it lets you bullet jump like you can in Warframe? I've never played Warframe, so I don't know what you're talking about. Roll D10 fall damage when you reduce as you free fall. Well, possibly, but I think that's where we can make a reaction as Featherfall that can also compete. Irony, you can wrap yourself entirely in this cloak and perform a rogue evasion dodge to save for no damage in any area of effect attack. That might be a little bit too powerful, irony, and that also might undermine, if you're a war leader and you want attention, you may want to even draw fire from your troops. So you're bright, you're sparkly, and you want your troops to even see you be able to take hits, and you do so, in that fashion. For very rare, though, to be able to offer that kind of total damage negation, I don't know. That seems a little powerful, in my opinion. Well, you have to understand, though, XCat, a potion of flying is already a very rare potion itself. So if we're adding more stuff on top of being able to fly, it would push the cloak up into like a legendary status. Otto says name Cloak of the Unsung Hero. Cloak could have Blade Ward and wraps around the cloak to knock away attacks like Doctor Strange. I kind of like the concept. I don't know if it would fit with a war leader, though. Again, because you're wearing something that's already bright and flashy and you want stuff incoming. Hey, Zerby, welcome. Having so the jump. I get it. I don't know if that would really go into war leader or repulsive in this case. Welcome, Zerby. I want the cloak to cast that third level beacon of hope. We'd be loading it up with a lot of spells. Let's take a look. Choose any number of creatures within range for the duration. Each target has advantage on a wisdom saving throw and death saving throw and regains the maximum number of hit points possible from any healing. So we could probably have that replace... Beacon of Hope. That's getting kind of complicated, XCat. I'm not against stuff like that necessarily, but I think for the practice of what we're doing, to have a lot of these extra riders and to put on more spells for more possible detriments, we're starting to get really wobbly with our concept and the balance of the item. And yeah, levitation, I mean, you're stuck in the air, but you can control your height. That's the purpose, right? You rise above the battlefield, you're shouting orders, you can cast this beacon of hope down. Auto for the suggestion of arrow snare. I mean, since something like that is already existing, I don't know if it should be redundant on a very rare item like this, which is more for the projection of leadership in combat than it is for personal defense. Because we're not really making armor. We're making you a leader in combat. Oh, congrats, Dragon Turtle. Congratulations on becoming affiliate. That's great. I'd love to catch your show sometime. It's just in that weird U.S. to Europe, like, when you're broadcasting, I'm at least attempting to sleep. And I know when I broadcast, a lot of people are just waking up in Europe. But we're still, XCat, we're still measuring ranks of debuff. And there's nothing that necessarily exists like that. So I think we could draw off of the one round of lethargy off of the end of haste if we wanted to have like an immediate cast version of something. And it keeps it nice and simple. Mesoamerica Forgotten Realms has Pluma Flight. It's cast on levitating objects, some spells there to study. You have to consider with Levitate, if you're hit with an arrow, it will throw you with the momentum of the arrow. Which could be good or bad depending on context. Well, I don't know how much inertia an arrow is going to carry, especially if it's already puncturing your armor. Flying carpet mechanics, first you float it, then you propel it. Yeah, unfortunate time zones. Yeah, it's 8 a.m. for you. I'd say you're burning the midnight oil, but I'm already into my midnight oil, and it's 3 a.m. So instead of the reactive property, like we'll actually give using as a reaction, you can cast Featherfall an unlimited number of times. So if your levitation is blown out, you can float back down or something like that. I mean, even with levitation, if you have a standard bearer in your army, you can just sort of like hook a foot into the top of the flag, and they can march you forward on top. Yeah, I understand. I understand, Dragon. Oh, but maybe inspiring leader. You can spend 10 minutes inspiring your companions, shoring up their resolve to fight. When you do so, choose up to 6 friendly creatures within 30 feet of you who can see or hear you, and who can understand you. Each creature can gain temporary hit points until a long or a short rest. So in this case, a free feat could make this... I mean, because what, we have a level 3 and a level 2. And we'll add in inspiring leader feat text. I think this would fit in a very rare slot. So it's a cape that can allow you to levitate or cast Beacon of Hope. As a free, for free, no charge, as an action until end of next turn, amplify your voice up to 300 feet away. So all up to 300 feet away can hear you. Reaction Featherfall, flutters on command. But we need to put the repulsive in here. So as the reaction on a Featherfall, well, if we put that, or if it makes someone feel uncomfortable, how else could that manifest? The bearer feels a sense of distaste when in contact with the item and continues to sense discomfort while bearing it. If you're bright and shiny, if it's billowing, lots of gems and gold. What if it was something like... Well, yeah, so that's off of Levitation. Featherfall itself, well, we might be able to replace that. Because Beacon of Hope, you can be on the ground for. It is built in. I was thinking, I don't know, if you're fighting... But they're dwarves. I don't know if you're going to fight on a... I was going to say at a cliff edge, right? They live in mountains. If Featherfall would just be its own thing. And that might not be thematic. So you could be correct on that, XCat. So in that case... So as a... So here, we're going to fill in... when used... It takes 10 minutes in the background. We can use the barbarian feature of reckless attack. When used... Although we're going to have to change this to be more of a... Not a 10-minute background thing, because then it could be abused. Or, how about just this? You get reckless attack as an option. And so it could be repulsive because it is making you the target. It can make you feel anxious. It can make you feel nervous. I'm wearing this, but my flashy design might help give me advantage in combat, but I'm granting advantage to everyone else. That could be interesting. Yaristoni. Maybe it's not so bright and shiny. Maybe it's been handed down from generations, so it's old and smelly. Well, it is an ornament. So it does have a lot of gemstones, gold inlay, precious metals, and whatnot. It's not necessarily a bad concept itself, but with the randomly generated conditions we rolled for this challenge, it is an ornament, especially of Dwarven design. That could be. Just like if a barbarian were wearing this and you get the effects of reckless attack. Learned an interesting fact, still verifying. Boris Karloff is the only person in the U.S. that is not a president that has been on more than 2 stamps. An interesting factoid, Derek. Nerdalopedia. Well, I didn't see a thing come up yet. Sometimes it can be on delay. But welcome to Nerdalopedia and your rating party of 10. So welcome aboard. It's great to have you. Unless you all are still stuck in ad purgatory or ad limbo, in which case I'll have to re-invite you to our discussion again. I'll look it up in a second, XCat. But thank you very much for that raid. Hey, there we go. There's Nerdalopedia. Welcome. If you're caught up in ad limbo, I went through a welcome, and I'll do it again because I understand that happens sometimes when you raid. I really like your icon, and I like the name. Nerdalopedia. Can you talk a little bit about what you do? This just says 3 times as loud, so it doesn't have a distance. It just means you could talk in a whisper, and you'll talk with the intensity of 3 whispers. So there's not necessarily a range per se on thaumaturgy, it just amplifies your voice. As DM, the actual slide rule of your great shout is not that important, we get the idea. We're a group of nerds that love playing video games and tabletop games together, and we're rating you for a weekly D&D game where we're playing a homebrew horror module. I love it! Thank you so much for finding us. Well, Nerdalopedia, for you and the others who've come, you're definitely among other nerds and friends, especially role players. We do primarily focus on D&D, but we can talk about World of Darkness and a lot of other systems. Primarily, we are a workshop where we challenge ourselves to make random characters. In this case, we're going through a magic item creation workshop, and we'll also do some other thematic things like miniature painting, or other sort of instructional and conversational pieces. At the end of the week, most times, we wrap everything up in a campaign that we then make available on our Discord, so that you can download any of the content we produce in our workshop and use it in your own homebrew modules. Yep, as Derek says, we can always use more horror here. And in fact, this coming week, we will be making some custom monsters in our workshop in order to get ready for some Halloween. We love homebrewing things. A couple of our nerds actually do a podcast involving homebrewing, so your stream caught our eye. Awesome! I'm happy to network. And so, hey, as much as you all want to interact, if you love homebrewing stuff, we're very open and friendly, like a D&D 101. And then on Tuesdays, we practice what we preach by playing D&D in a broadcast session. Then Wednesday through Saturday is when we do something thematic, like build characters, and it goes into a campaign, or any of the other activities that we brought up. So, if you would like to join, and I understand a lot of people have very full Discord communities in their left-hand side of their app there, you are welcome to join. We keep it safe for work, PG-13, so you don't have to feel guilty opening it up at work or whatever. And for what you see we do here, there's a ton of content that you can find. We have a lot of social channels here. You can share art that you've made. We have a workshop and a mentor network as well if you need help homebrewing stuff or getting rulings on things. And in fact, if you'd like to see what we've done before, right here under past content, our workshops are recorded and put up onto YouTube, and the documents that we make, any sort of item creation like this, or campaign outlines, or custom backgrounds, custom monsters and everything, all the files are put up in PDF form, or because I use OpenOffice, because I don't want anyone to have to come out of pocket any more than is necessary. Like I use Paint and OpenOffice. All of these files are uploaded here for your own download and consideration to use, amplify, or to do whatever you'd like to do with them. Yep, and in fact, Nerdalopedia, if you ever need to, stop by our project workshop. There is a voice channel and a text channel to go along with it. And so if you have some content, you're like, can I get a second opinion on this, guys and girls? Or, you know what, I've really wanted to run a horror campaign, but I'm tired of the same, like, physical horror, like mummies and zombies. How do I run emotional horror? That's what our workshop is there to help out with. Delcorin, can you defeat it? Well, kind of just barely. Delcorin defeats the wolf spider and earns 100 experience points. Diadems, if you don't mind dropping that on Delcorin, he actually won an adventure. Woo! And by the way, for all of you who joined us, thank you. There's a lot of fun little chat, like roleplay prompts and mini games you can play. But anyway, you all are welcome. And if any of you do join our Discord here, Gareth Lorraine and for the others, thank you very much for the follow. I very much appreciate that. If you do join our Discord, I ask that your Discord name match your Twitch handle to make communication easier. That way, as we're going in between live streaming and when I'm not streaming, we have this. Delcorin is going from the first level Plains adventure straight into the near end game Underdark. A Quaggoth appears. You need a 16 or greater to defeat it. But it's worth 1,000 EXP. Yeah, hello there, Disadvantage. I knew you didn't go too far. Alright, roll that 2d20. 1 and 2. Delcorin stares at the Quaggoth and says, you can't fire me, I quit, and falls upon his sword in front of it. Oh gosh, Delcorin. Well, you can always do a res, please. Oh yes, our GM loves emotional and psychological horror. Our session ended with 2 brothers dying. A few of us nerds are following you, and I'm jumping on your Discord now. Oh, okay, you're Gareth Lorraine? Awesome, thank you. Yep, there's plenty of horror aficionados, Vampire the Masquerade, and other World of Darkness players. I finished running Curse of Strahd not that long ago, and I mean, just a lot of us are seasoned role players in many degrees. I've also ran Dark Heresy for a while, and if you want to talk about horror, even in a sci-fi setting, woo! Delcorin, my aging ears didn't hear you! Oh gosh. Well, we have I think we have our second very rare our second very rare equipment here. You can do a lot with it. You can do some avoidance, some healing, some inspiration here. It can amplify your voice so you can be heard. And it'll offer you the trait of reckless attack as a barbarian. Which can, and of course, for free, we're throwing in for free the fact that it'll flutter on command. Oh, snap, Delcorin. You went straight into Epic. There's the Tarrasque. 3,000 EXP goes to Delcorin for defeating the Tarrasque. Very cool. All right, let's take a quick little break. I'm gonna go fill up my my pitcher with some water because I've been talking a lot, and we can continue to talk items. We can nerd out together. It's 3:30. I still have a little ways to go tonight. That we can spend time. Just give me a couple minutes to wet my whistle, and I will be back. And we'll keep talking. We'll keep going over stuff. And Nerdalopedia, it's a pleasure to meet you and the others who've come along with you. And you know what? If I catch you broadcasting, I hope to raid you in return. And I hope to continue to get our communities to know each other very well.